Hey guys, welcome to what is probably the most intricate build I've had on Enshrouded so far. This is my manor home on a little town I built just south of Revelwood. It is a few, I think maybe 1,000 meters north of the first spire that you find in the Springlands. The build consists of this foundation. Once I've got this foundation down, the building kind of builds itself. The U there is just for units. I'm using that as the tiny little block, the tiniest little block that you get in Enshrouded. After building the foundation, I used the half timbered brick to fill in the floor. It, to me, is a very cool early game floor. The wood on top is nice. It looks like decent timber. The other wood just seems cheap. Doesn't seem like it's ready for a home just yet. So I used the half timbered brick, and then I also added a whole lot of scaffolding. You don't have to use the scaffolding bricks, just use whatever timber you have or whatever extra bricks you have to fill in around you. The next part to me is the skeleton of the build, and that was the pillars. As you can see here, I used the roughly cut stone bricks for that. It looks cool. It was an early game stone, and I'd stick with it. It is a very nice looking stone. Some of the builds are fairly, or some of the parts here are fairly easy. You can see I just slot in the big windows, slot in big door frames. But as you see now, it gets slightly more intricate. I'm using the smaller windows and smaller walls to fill in, but just copy, if you are, very closely. I found that what I'm doing right now, starting on the one corner and walking the way through, is not the easiest way of doing it. I also forgot to mention that I want to put in like a cool looking chimney here. I'm using the flint stone there, which looks cool. It's just a different kind of stone, adds a lot of texture. But back to how I want to build these walls, I would recommend, like what I'm doing here, starting from the outside and working the way in. That way you don't have any walls blocking your view. And leaving that little hole in the middle there, that is on purpose. We'll see what that's going to look like in just a second. But yeah, this small walls makes it cool, and that skeleton adds a whole lot of texture to the build. Here, for the internal wall, I'm just using the same half timbered brick. Don't have any sandstone just yet, and that would have been ideal here. Same half timbered brick I'm going to be using for the stairway, for the same reason. It's got a nice wood finish. And then same for the second floor, half timbered brick. Looks very nice. I'm leaving a gap there on purpose as well. You guys will notice what that's all about in just a second. But so far, this building is taking a very cool shape. Continuing with the pillars, once again, roughly cut stone. And there's a reason I'm following up with the pillars on the second floor as well. It's not strictly Bohemian, not that, Bavarian, but it adds a cool finish that I've done for a lot of the buildings in this town. You can see in the background there, I've followed through with the roughly cut stone on the second floor as well. But have a look at how pretty it looks in just a second. Now here for the second floor, when it comes to the walls, I am using the half timbered brick. Once again, making the mistake of starting from the one side, following through. I think starting from the outer edge and moving inwards would have been easier. If you were keen-eyed, you'd have seen me making a mistake there. Did you notice the twists and turns? It doesn't snap 100%, so I'm not using the snapping tool, but I am fiercely relying on the foundation that I built. See that little ledge that I left there? That's on purpose. Leave that. You want to have that doorway. It needs to start looking like this double-layered home. First layer stone, second layer half timbered brick. Now you can see why I say start on the outside, work your way in. This is a cool best practice. More scaffolding, always. The more scaffolding, the better. I've cut out a bunch of times that I've fallen while building this house. As you can see, it's on an edge of a tiny cliff, so it is difficult to build it. In the sense of staying on the surface that you want to build. So having a lot of scaffolding makes the job so much easier. And who cares if it looks ugly? This is part of the construction process. Have lots of scaffolding. Have too much other than too little. Make the job easier for yourself. You'll see now I'm laying a lot of scaffolding, getting ready for what I think is the hardest part of any build so far, or to me, a little bit of a perfectionist that I am, by a little bit I mean greatly, the roof comes in as the hardest part for me. Everything needs to look perfect when it comes to the roof. This is interesting, and I want to explain what's happening here. I'm using a little bit of stone to show that from these two layers, the first layer is not lining up with the second layer at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the second layer's width so it lines up with the first layer, so that when we do put a roof on, it lines up perfectly, because the roof blocks will snap to a nearby other block, and it's going to look like you've got a roof inside of the house. We definitely don't want that. So I want the line up 2 layers of wall. I'm going to be doing the same on the other sections of the house as well, so it needs to be perfectly lined up. This section over here, it's lined up fairly well. You'll see in just a second. That's just that first part of the building where it's slightly thicker walls. Doesn't line up too well. To line it up, I just use the upside down little terrace building, or terrace block, or stepped wall rather. Inverted stepped wall, that's what it says there. And I just fill in one extra block or one extra unit going downwards, so it lines up just right. Just like that. Notice how clean and crisp that line is. Now here's interesting. Like I said, if you were keen-eyed, you'd notice that I missed a block in my foundation. So if I follow the foundation to the T, it lined up just right. That's why the foundation measurements at the start of the building is so keen. If you want to copy this building, get that foundation just right. The measurements are there. Pause the video, take some time, and then allow the building to build itself. Notice how all of the scaffolding allows this easy traverse across the construction site. So easy, so fun. Now the fun stops and becomes more of a schlep. The roof, I'm still trying to figure out what is the best way to build. From the top down, bottom up, I don't know. From this build, I would like to say starting from the bottom going down would be easiest, but I love lining up where the roof is going to meet each other. Where do we need to be careful about intersections? As you can see here, these two corners that I'm building right now was a bit of a difference. I could have allowed for that in the design of this house, but I didn't, so now we've got this awkward flat roof corner, but it blends in just right. Allowing for a tiny bit of an overhang from the roof. I just like the texture it adds. It's not this plain flush with the wall kind of roof. Once again, coming to that corner, we're gonna want to try and meet the two roofs, and that's hard, so we need to slow down, zoom in, and take your time meeting the two roofs. Otherwise, what bothers me is the bottom or the ceiling is going to look all dirty, like it's not going to look crisp and clean. Could use the snap tool, it makes it slightly easier, but for me, I like to have control, especially when it comes to the roof building. Like I said, I get really perfectionist about this. Notice how annoying that little square block flat roof is. To me, here, I must admit, starting from the bottom going up would have been easier. Now I need to squeeze myself into this little corner. to build a roof, so that was my bad. So I think if you're building these 2 layers of roof, start at the bottom, work your way up. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself in tight squeezes, and it's going to get uncomfortable. It's going to be unpleasant, take a lot of time. My wife actually took a photo of me building here with a horrible looking construction focus concentration face. It was weird. This part took some problem solving. Copy it here. It's fairly simple once you look at the video, but figuring this out was construction concentration phase all over again. Notice how the scaffolding inside is still coming into play here. Do not remove the scaffolding until you're done, absolutely done with the entire building. This took some time to figure out, but using the inner roof corner helps a lot, just to almost stack it on top of each other and then finishing with that slanted roof tip, the smaller one. This may seem simple. It took me about 20 minutes to figure out and then 5 minutes to build. That adds a lot of depth to your build. It looks like a better looking roof, and it adds some light on the inside. Once again, coming back here, you can see why it's so important to have started at the bottom and then work your way to the top. Of course, you can still allow for those windows that I put in the roof. But yeah, to me, start at the bottom when you come to a building and work your way to the top. Seems realistic, doesn't it? That is the roof. Just need to finish off the chimney here. It makes it look well chimney-like. In the inside, those little holes that I left was on purpose, but it needs to be a lot bigger, so I'm making it bigger using the tool in that first row, and then cutting it open, making it nice and flush, just 1 unit long wide on both sides of wall. The rest is one day going to be a window. See here at the roof, this is exactly what I mean. This is what gets my perfectionism all messed up. I need to figure out how to solve that ceiling problem, and it took some time. It turns out if you just use a piece of your usual block, your normal block, just that single unit block, and you build it, it snaps all of that those tiles perfectly. So the roof that I used has that cool Nordic design that snaps at the edges. If you fill in with a floor, it doesn't count those slanted pieces as edges, so it makes it nice and flush with the ceiling. This is just a little touch, making a little bit of a hearth chimney. Keep in mind, this is still early game, so I'm enjoying the way that chimney looks. Wide open spaces, good looking walls. And this top floor here will be the room. that was how I built this little manor house. It takes some time. This video itself was about 45 minutes that I just sped up to make it 15. But I hope you enjoyed it. I also hope that you copy it. Please give a like and a comment.